So now that we've found the errors in the other two chorales that had this chord progression, we get to write our own. And I noticed that somewhere in between the first and second versions of that, we lost the 7 on this chord. So, oh well, I guess we'll do this one without a 7 since it doesn't have it on there. So, first thing I want to do is spell these chords underneath. Now, since you probably have that already written on your other ones, that won't take you very long. So I decided that I would like to do this chord with the 7th in there. So that's why I added that on that 5-7. So if you're doing this along with the video, go ahead and add that 7 on there. And if you're not doing this with the video, then you won't know that we're adding that 7 on there, and you won't do it. And that's okay too. But it'll be good practice to get a 7th chord in this voice leading. My next step then would be to write in the bass line. I'm just go ahead and circle these here that I didn't circle on my inversions. So that shouldn't take me too much work. Just always whatever the bass line is, I'm going to make sure I get it in there in the right spot. So A, D, D, E, C, D, B, A. Okay, and these should probably be half notes, and I wrote them as quarter notes, but I'm not even going to dock you for rhythm on this. So now I just got to make sure that I spell the chords correctly as I do my smooth voice leading. A good place to start on this first chord, since I didn't give you a starting chord, which they will on the exam, so that's nice, is to have a nice open structure here. So I'm going to put my tenor on the A, doubled the bass there, and then I need a C and an E. I'm going to just keep those spread a little bit, so I've got room to work now. So that's probably a good starting chord right there to work with. If you want to use that one, that would be just great. Okay, now as I go along, I'm going to look for common tones between two chords. Okay, just as a reminder here how we're doing this. Common tones between two chords. Between the first two, there are an A goes to an A. Since that doesn't happen in the bass, I'm going to let that happen with the other A that I had, which is in the tenor. So leave that common tone. That avoids all those leaping problems that we had in that last chorale we just looked at. Okay, and then the other two, I want to just go to the smoothest, closest thing I can while avoiding parallel fifths and octaves. Okay, so I need a D and an F in this chord. So that makes sense to me to just step up with both of them. Now, that's going to cause parallel motion, I realize. So I want to check and make sure what the interval is there. And it's a sixth, so parallel sixths are okay. So in doing that, I've checked for errors in spelling that next chord. Okay. Next chord, I need a B, D, F. So D and F are common tones. Those are in the alto and soprano, so I'm going to leave them in the alto and soprano. And then the other note that I need would be a B. So if my tenor steps up, is there any parallel motion? I've got things staying the same and one stepping up, so I'm safe. Going on. Common tones, the B and the D. Okay, so the B was in the tenor and the D in the soprano. Now, you might look back at this and start going, you know, that soprano line, it's not a very interesting melody. And maybe in the instructions even it says something about an interesting melody or creating interest in your line or something. Don't worry. They don't dock you for having boring parts, okay? They don't dock you for keeping your notes the same going along. So don't worry about that. What other note do I need here? I've got an E, B, and a D. I need the G in the alto. Okay. Parallel motion there is between the alto and the bass. D to F, that's a third. I'm safe. Now, I'm just going to make myself a note here, and probably I should do that anytime I have 4 letters. I know that this is a 7th chord. Make an arrow coming from that 4th one to make sure that you resolve that correctly. Okay, and maybe I should even look at look across here anytime I have a G and put an up arrow. That might not be a bad idea either. Okay, so anytime you have 4 letters, put the down arrow to make sure your 7th goes down. Anytime you have a leading tone of the key, which you have to figure out based on what the key is, they put an up arrow, just to make sure we resolve those correctly. So here's my G and my alto. It needs to go up to an A, and my D is in the soprano. It needs to come down to a C. Okay, so now I've got my A, my C. I just need an E in the tenor, which is looking like that might be a little bit weird for that to jump all the way to an E. It's going to have to go up a 4th. Okay, which we try to avoid leaps like that, but it's not against the rules to go up a 4th. We can't change the bass. We can't change those tendency tones, so it's just, that's the way it's got to be. So we're going to go ahead and leave that as it is. And common tones here, DFA, the A that was in the alto is going to stay in the alto. And then, we'll just go to the smoothest, closest thing we can there. Probably a D in the tenor. And then that leaves an F. Actually, if I look at what my soprano should be, I want the soprano to go to the D. And then I can, oh man, that eraser's so big. So take my soprano up to the D, then the tenor goes up to the F. Now some of you might go, whoa, that's way up there. Isn't that out of the tenor range? But it's not. Tenors can go up to the G above that, actually. So if I continue on, I'm going to keep my common tone of the D in the soprano, which leaves me with a G and a B. Smoothest voice leading would be G in the tenor and B in the alto. That's a parallel third. But I'm already seeing that I need this G to go up, which actually will take me out of what I feel is the tenor range. So if it's possible, maybe I should try to keep that G out of the tenor on that one. Let's see what happens if I bring it down. If I come down, I bring in the tenor to D, and the alto to the G. I've got parallel motion between the bass and the tenor, which is a third. That would need my soprano to go down to the B, which makes parallel octaves between my bass and my soprano. So I can't do that. I have to double the bass on this chord, and it can't be in the soprano. So it looks like I need to change the previous chord, which now I'm actually realizing that it has to be changed anyway, because I had parallel octaves between my bass and my soprano there, from C to D. You probably noticed that, but you couldn't tell me. You were shouting at your screen, I'm sure. So let's just go back here, and one of my red flags should have been that the bass is stepping up, and the bass is stepping up. We need to bring all of our other notes down in contrary motion to avoid those parallel octaves. Okay, so instead of keeping my common tone in the A that I did before in the alto, I'm going to actually bring the soprano down to the A, and then the alto down to the F. So that creates parallel thirds. That's okay. And then I need another D, which is right here for the tenor. And that works out. And then we're going to be able to keep the tenor in the range and do smooth your voice leading for this next chord. If I keep my common tone, I need to double the B and I need a G. So if those two go back in parallel thirds, then leading tone goes up. That's in the alto, going to the A. And I need a C and an E. Keep that in parallel. Now I've got parallel motion between all my upper voices. So that's thirds between the soprano and alto. Then the soprano tenor is a sixth, and the alto and tenor is a fourth. So that's safe. So hopefully that fixed it. I can just go back quickly and just do a check on spacing. I don't seem to have any spacing errors. The range thing we kind of looked at as we went. Make sure there's no obvious voice overlaps or voice crossings. Looks pretty good. So good luck with that. Hopefully you don't run into too many problems. As you noticed, when I started running into problems, if I went back and found the source of that problem, then I was able to fix it. So if I would have seen the parallel octaves between my bass and the soprano earlier, then I would have got through that a little quicker. Have fun.